there, bookworms! For any of you out there that are struggling with feelings of anger, rejection, shame, I have the perfect book to help you come to terms with your pain and truly move on. Here's your therapeutic Bible. This month's book review is on Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese monk, and in this book he talks about mindfulness and its healing powers. In this book review, I'm going to talk about ways that you can work through the sour feelings that you felt from a bad relationship. Find forgiveness for both yourself and the person who hurt you, and let go of those negative feelings. Well, let's dive in. Recognizing your inner child. Han opens by asking us to imagine ourselves as a child. So for the sake of this example, maybe imagine yourself when you were 6 years old. You were probably naive, inexperienced, sensitive. You'd cry if somebody called you a meanie head or stole your toy. Let's be honest, I'd probably still cry about that today. You were vulnerable to pain and suffering. There's a part of you that still feels those same feelings, even today. There's a child inside of all of us. A little voice in our head that's hurting and wants love and care. Han says that if a child was suffering in real life, most of us would be inclined to go up to that child and comfort her, wrap her in a hug, give her kisses, tell her everything's gonna be okay. Anything that we would need to do to make her feel better, because she's a kid. She doesn't know any better. Much like a child isn't developed enough to cope herself, there is an internal child inside of us all that also struggles with coping mechanisms. When it comes to our own suffering, that little voice inside of our head, we push it down. Come up with every excuse in the book. I don't have time for this. You should be over this. Stop fixating on it. He was an asshole. You're a weenie. Build a bridge and get over it. We become master bottlers. If you think of your conscious mind like a living room and your unconscious mind like your basement, it's like we take this child and we shove her in the dungeon of our mind to forget about her in the basement while we continue living our daily lives. Unaddressed and unsoothed, she becomes this dark, bitter thing. And we pretend that we don't hear her pounding on that basement door every single day, wanting to come up for air. Han says that we have to condition our minds to understand what he calls the goodness of suffering. That we need to let these thoughts come up every single day and address them. That our pain can actually be helpful. This all leads me to my next point. Healing. This child needs to be heard. It's not healthy for anyone to be shoving their pain down in their metaphorical basement. But that's the big question, right? What's the best way to cope with your pain? Han urges us to form positive habit energy, to set aside time each and every day to explore our feelings and address our suffering. Imagine when you're doing this, that you're actually soothing that smaller version of yourself, that child that is fixating and crying. To them, it feels like this problem is the end of the world. And to an extent, to some part of you, it probably does feel like that. In these weak moments, it might feel like you're incapable of working through your own pain and comforting yourself. But you are. You are the adult in this situation. And you have to remember that that grown-up part of you is able to separate and see the child's pain, or your pain in this case, and help them to work through it. Step 1, acknowledge the pain and remember that it's shared. Han reminds us that this child keeps fixating on the past, that it keeps replaying memories of things that happened that are no longer a reality. These are merely images in her mind. And if she stopped focusing so much on the past, she would be able to be mindful and find joy in the present. When these images cascade around you, take a moment. Take some deep breaths. And imagine little you in a corner, mourning. Call that child forward as you in your true form and remind the child that it's not her fault, that we're all human and that we make mistakes. Oftentimes, we can find this comfort by reminding ourselves that in most situations, multiple people are involved and multiple hands share fault, and that everyone in that situation is probably feeling their own degree of pain. When we become so consumed by our own pain, that can be really easy to forget. It wouldn't be a book review by me if you didn't cue my personal story. Okay, so in all seriousness, I'm gonna take a moment here to share a story about my own suffering so that you could see how I came to terms with my problems and worked through things with the help of this book. After 3 years of being with my last serious boyfriend, I would say that things ended pretty badly. My partner and I were going to move across the country together. While he was out there for a month looking for places for us to stay, he had met someone and had cheated on me the entire time that he was out there. But he came back and we were gonna pack up the truck and move together, and he didn't tell me about it, but I knew something was wrong. I became that kind of person that I didn't like, the kind of girlfriend that checked her boyfriend's phone. And I am glad that I did, because I found out that he was cheating on me. And when I confronted him about it, he denied it and lied to me about it. Well, I knew something wasn't right, so I decided to not move with him. I told him, you know what, I'm staying behind, you do you. And he moved across the country. I was so blinded with rage by this betrayal. And after 3 years of being with a man that I thought that maybe one day I might marry, I was so suddenly alone. This child inside me felt used, abandoned, rejected, not good enough, a full spectrum of negative emotions. And I wanted him to feel that same pain that I felt. To acknowledge that he did something really, really fucked up and was a selfish, fake-ass douche nozzle. And every night, I would sit in my room and I would let myself cry. I would journal about it, try to rationalize with myself that I made the right decision to leave him, that I deserve better, all the while still being really confused about my feelings. Why did this happen to me? I'm a good person. Did I do something to deserve this? It took me many, many months to realize that that's not how these situations work. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Looking back on it, I realized that things weren't perfect. We'd argue a lot. And I think I tried to rationalize that around the fact that all couples argue, which is true. But he had been feeling very deeply for a long time that this wasn't going to last and it wasn't right, and just hadn't been honest about it. This little boy inside of him was too frightened to talk to me about things, to lose the support system that he had built up over that 3-year span, to admit the terrible things that he did out of desperation to feel loved. The child in me wanted to feel loved too, and I tried so desperately to feel loved that I was trying to force him to change things about himself, to fit him into this perfect little mold that I had of a partner and in a relationship, and it wasn't fair. Instead of acknowledging that this wasn't right and having the pride to move on to find something that was better, I shifted the blame of the relationship onto him, saying that it wasn't getting better because he wasn't working on things. And although that was true to an extent, I also didn't love the person that he really was. We were both hurt little kids that were afraid to let go of the shell that our relationship was rapidly becoming, but we just reacted to that pain in very different ways. Does that make what he did right? Well, to me, no, it didn't feel right. And even later, months later, when he called me up and admitted all of the things that he had done, acknowledged the fact that it really didn't feel right to him either. Nonetheless, you have to accept the fact that it happened. Step 2, finding your peace. I found my peace after months of reminding myself that he acted out of fear. And after I accepted my role, I stopped telling the story to people in a way that positioned me as the victim in the situation. We begin to heal when we stop casting blame, when we stop victimizing ourselves, when we stop judging others and acknowledge and empathize with their reasoning behind doing what they did. That includes no longer scolding or judging ourselves for the mistakes that we've made as well. We must accept the fact that it happened and to grow from the positive way that that relationship changed us, and to stop fixating on the negative. Empathy, mindfulness, compassion, these are the things that we can take to transform a shitty situation into a learning experience. Hanh says that only once we can understand why the person did what they did can we empathize and truly forgive. We need to rid ourselves of this endless loop of suffering that we keep putting ourselves through day in and day out. We can do this by truly empathizing and being sympathetic to the feelings of others. This makes it easier for the child within ourselves to connect with the child within them. The impermanence of suffering. The most wonderful part about all of this is that pain can't last forever. Just like the seasons come and go, nothing in life is permanent, just like your suffering. To find balance and truly heal, you need to recognize what hurts and understand why. And we must consciously choose a path of kindness and compassion in order to grow. Even though I just told you a ton about this book, there's so much that you can learn by just picking it up yourself and reading it. Again, this is a pretty new channel for me, so if you get a chance, subscribe, give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment to motivate me to keep doing this, or leave a recommendation for a book that you'd like to learn more about. Alrighty, well, thanks so much for watching. Till next time, bookworms.